Welcome back, everyone, to Confessions of a Loveaholic. I am your host, Emmy Hernandez, and I'm super excited to introduce you to the beautiful, the wonderful Miss Angela Turpin. Angela Turpin is a trauma healer and owner of Transform with Angela. Angela has healed her childhood trauma and unhealthy childhood conditioning for the last 10 years. She is certified in trauma-informed coaching, NLP, yay, my NLP sister here, hypnosis, life coaching, and timeline therapy. Angela is also continuing her education in the MA program for interpersonal psychology at Sophia University. Angela is on a mission to lead the movement Life After Trauma, where she supports, guides, and helps women embody their worthiness and sovereignty after trauma. Angela, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am super excited to unpack everything we're going to be talking about today. For those of you who don't know, Confessions of a Loveaholic was born from learning about rewiring our blueprints and healing a lot of the childhood trauma that I personally had. And most of the women that I work with also have had childhood trauma, whether they know it or not, by the way, okay? Most of it is unconscious. We're going to be going into what that looks like. And sometimes trauma, there's trauma with the little t and trauma with the big T, right? Trauma with the big T are the large events that you can remember that were super painful. Sometimes you experience trauma and you don't even call it trauma because to you, that was just life. That was just how you were raised. So we're going to be going into some of those topics here today with Angela, and she's going to give us all of her nuggets and tidbits of how she works with her clients. And we're going to be going into what childhood trauma does to you. Here's what part of what most people don't understand is they say, oh, well, that was a long time ago, get over it. The reason we have to address childhood trauma is because of how it's presenting in your life now. And it usually shows up as self-sabotage and or sabotaging relationships and many other ways. So Angela, I'm so excited that we're going to be starting here because there's so much to unpack.
Mhm.
Let's start off with maybe how would you identify childhood trauma? What does it look like for your clients that are coming to you here today, even though it maybe happened 20 plus years ago?
Sure. So a lot of my clients, when they come to me, they're usually hyper independent. They had to be the strong ones in their family. So they weren't allowed to express any emotions. They weren't allowed to have any emotions. A lot of my clients show up as the good girl, and not that there's a total negative connotation to that. But that does mean, she's not speaking up when she's upset, when her boundaries have been crossed. She stays quiet. She's she does what everybody wants her to do rather than what she truly wants to do, and completely loses herself in that good girl identity. I have clients that come to me that don't speak up about their sexual abuse that they've experienced in their childhoods with their partners. They're afraid to tell their partners because they're afraid of the judgment, the shame. They don't want their partners to react because it might actually be in family that they know that they've met. And so they've also kept it quiet. I've also had clients come to me that have been just absolutely miserable with their lives and just not know what to do. And why on earth is their life like this? Because they should be happy, right? They should be totally satisfied with their life because they have the house, they have the car, they have the significant other, they have everything that we've been trained to believe that that's what's going to give us happiness, and they're not happy at all. And so that's usually what it looks like. And I mean, we're just scraping the surface on this.
I can relate. You have a fellow hyper independent woman here. I'm the oldest of 7 children in my family, and I was definitely not allowed to show any emotion. And I had perfect grades. And that's how I knew that I would get at least attention from my teachers, right? At home, that was an obligation to have perfect grades. But at least at school, I was the perfect little girl. And that brought me so much joy and fulfillment. It was great up until when I finished high school. Once I started college and
Yeah.
started real life, that was not something that mattered so much anymore. And I had to do a lot of work with unraveling this good girl syndrome that I like to sort of talk about. So let's talk about, we've already discussed, so I'm glad you're bringing up how it sort of shows up. And again, as Angela said, we're just scratching the surface. This shows up in many other areas of our lives as well, very often in health issues as well. A lot of autoimmune diseases are caused from us suppressing emotions and sort of pushing things down and get stuck in certain organs. So if anyone listening right now is like, oh my God, I experienced a lot of that, or I'm experiencing it now, how can someone start the process to actually heal this? And is it possible to heal this, Angela?
I believe that it's possible to heal it. And I believe that it's possible to heal it because I've healed it in my life. I mean, as everybody knows, like healing is just an ongoing journey. It's not something that you're magically going to come up on a destination, but I have healed a lot of it. My clients have healed a lot of it. So I do believe that it's possible. But what I tell people, especially when they're first realizing that these things are trauma, is I tell them to get a journal and just start writing about everything, because a journal is a safe place where you can connect with yourself, where you can let it all out, and where you won't be really judged for anything. And I feel like that's so important, because the reason why a lot of us don't speak up about anything is because we have all this fear of being rejected or being judged or being shamed. And in the journal, none of that really exists. And so you can share your entire story in that journal and you don't ever have to really worry about it. And I have people, oh, well, what if someone's going to see it? Write in yellow. If you write in yellow, it's so hard to see, especially against like white paper and stuff like that. I used to have an ex that would read my journal, and I figured out how to do that. So I would start writing in journals, or I would write in yellow. So that's what you can do if you're concerned about that.
OMG, what an incredible hack. I love the writing in yellow part, even if you're not concerned that someone's going to see it, because it's a way of like getting it down and being done with it, right? And not as in like you have to be over it, but you're processing as you go, as opposed to something you go back and reread over and over and over again, because you don't really have to go back and reread it in order to process it. That is phenomenal. Absolutely love that. Wow. I really want to get into this part, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. I want to discuss the importance of being able to process what happened to us, and maybe for those of us who were sexually assaulted and molested when we were young girls, which happens unfortunately to a lot of us. I was trigger warning for everyone on the line right now with sexual assault. I was molested at 4 years old by one of my uncles that lived in our home. And the thing is, I did not have a conscious memory of it until I started doing the healing work with me being able to attract my soulmate and working, figuring out why I was so hyper independent. And then I started having dreams about it. And then I started having visual movies playing in my head when I was awake. And I was really confused because I thought I was making it up. And it was really pissing me off because I was like, why am I making up this story? This is not a story that makes me feel good. I don't want to think about this. But it wasn't until I realized that it was real. I was not making it up. And this wasn't about confronting this horrible monster of a man. And by the way, I have since found out that I wasn't the only one he did this to. And I also found out 30 years later that the whole family knew about it. My grandmother, my aunts, my mom, and I wasn't the only person in the family he had done something like this to, yet they kept it all a secret. And that really pissed me the fuck off. And I said, enough is enough, and it stops with me. So he is not a part of my family. He is not allowed to participate in my life at all. He has been blocked from all contact. Even when it comes to something that's life or death matters with his family members, I don't care. He does not have the right to participate in my life. And for those of the people who, in my family, we grew up super Catholic. I don't follow the religion anymore, but this whole sense of like, you have to forgive that person, right, in order to move on and heal yourself. Bullshit. I call bullshit. You do not have to forgive that person in order for you to heal and move on. And I am proof of that because I am married to the love of my life, my soulmate, And I understand the fear of bringing something like this up to your partner, but I need you to understand that when you are with a healthy man, a healthy partner, especially when it comes to soulmate love, not only do they encourage you to share your past, they will be so loving, so present, so understanding, and so wanting to protect you and take care of you that it's part of the healing process. I'd love to hear your insights on that, Angela.
Well, first, thank you so much for sharing that. I resonate with your story like 100%. Like you could have almost taken it out of my story. I did experience it from the ages of 4 to 7, and then I didn't really remember what had happened until I started to like dive into personal development. I hadn't quite started like healing yet, but I had this flashback of it happening, and I was like, there's no way this actually happened, and it doesn't affect me. Okay, it doesn't affect me like that. There's no way it affects me. Well, then 2 years later I found out that it really did affect me, because I ended up pregnant unexpectedly with my daughter, and I'm not with her dad, and so I knew that in that whole scenario I was like, I have to do something about this now. Like, I cannot continue to have partners like this. I cannot continue to have relationships like this and think that my daughter is going to be okay in her life later on down the road, having partners like this and seeing us together and things like that. And I knew that in order for me to be able to trust him at all, I was going to need to heal. And so I totally did. And then, things, of course, unraveled from there. But I do want to hit on something that you bring up that's so important, because a lot of my clients do not tell their partners, and it's a huge step to tell their partners. And the women that end up, not all of them tell their partners, and that's fine. It's their choice, it's their business. Just because I guide and encourage that doesn't mean that, they still have to take that step. So, but when the women do tell their partners, it's loving, and it actually changes their intimacy. And it changes their intimacy because sometimes, and just women in general, sometimes we don't want to be intimate, sometimes we don't want to have sex, but we do it anyway because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we're afraid to, or sometimes we have certain reactions after, during, before, whatever the case may be. And if you have sexual trauma that you haven't told your partner about, there's a huge disconnect between that intimacy and that physicality. And in order for that to shift, you want there to be safety. You want to feel safe with your partner. If you're not telling your partner those things, then there's something there that's making you feel unsafe. And a lot of it has to do with us personally, not necessarily our partner, especially if you have a healthy man. But when you tell that person, intimacy changes. You feel like you can trust them. You feel like you're safe with them. And you're more likely to be more intimate with your partner when you tell them. And so I'm hoping that by saying this, it encourages women to start telling their partners if they have not.
100% agree, Angela. It is absolutely life-changing with how your sexual life will change with a healthy partner when you're able to share this. And again, though we encourage this through a process, right? We recommend you do it with someone who's an expert in this, like Angela or myself, because it's very difficult to do it on your own. Can you do it on your own? Absolutely. But we're here to help you. Don't worry, you don't have to do it on your own. We're here to hold your hand throughout the process. And it is 100% everyone's choice to be able to share or not share. And this isn't about your partner, by the way. This isn't about like, oh, they deserve to know. No, it's not about that. It's about you deserve the freedom. You deserve to not have those golden shackles on anymore.
Right.
And when you have quote unquote released all of your secrets of the things that you feel would maybe make you dirty or unworthy or unloved, and you see that your partner like loves you even more, not despite your past, but because of it, you're more endearing to them. You feel more present in intimate moments. And when you are present safe and comfortable and you're in love, you have a much higher likelihood of experiencing amazing, magnificent orgasms. Okay.
Yes.
A lot of the women that I meet can have sex with their partner, sometimes out of obligation, but they can't actually get their point to a point of orgasm because there's so much going on in their head, and that blocks the fluidity of being able to be 100% open with themselves, because the O is not what your partner is doing, is what you can get to in companionship, although we don't need partners for that. However, if you do want to do it in partnership, it changes the dynamic because you're feeling safe with yourself, and the level of love and intimacy, non-sexual intimacy, the intellectual, emotional intimacy is so deepened. And then you know that there's no such thing as you being dirty or undeserving or unworthy of love, because once you share it, it's kind of done and over with. And then you just move on with your normal life. It's not something that your partner or you are going to want to bring up over and over and over again. If that is something that's happening, please talk to a specialist like Angela or myself, because that's not something that should be happening. Your partner is not there to therapize you. That's not their role, and you shouldn't be therapizing them either.
Yes, I completely agree with all of that, especially the part about having better, more enjoyable sex, more enjoyable orgasms, and more often. And we think a lot of it has to do with the physical part of it, but a lot of it has to do with us. And like you said, what's going on in our minds. Like if you're stressed out, I'm not saying there's no way to get there, but it takes a lot more work than if you're present and everything's good and you feel calm and at peace. And so when you tell your partner, it's almost an immediate calmness and peaceness when you go into having these physical relationships or these physical moments.
I love that. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit because you're certified in so many amazing things, and I'm absolutely so happy. I'm so happy that you are trauma informed, and you're a trauma informed coach. I am myself as well, and I see, unfortunately, a lot of other coaches. I have personally experienced that in a business mastermind where this coach said she was trauma informed and she was not, and something that happened to me that came up in the setting, it was not addressed appropriately at all. So I know what it's like to be put in a situation where you're like,
Right.
hey, I'm not being held in this sacred space, and it does a lot more damage to that person. So this is why we are huge advocates for truly being trauma informed. And, you know, you and I love NLP and life coaching and timeline therapy, huge fan of timeline therapy. One of the areas that I do not do, but I do recodes. Can you tell us about hypnosis? I'm super interested in hearing more about hypnosis, and how do you use this with your clients who have childhood trauma? Can you walk us through what that would be like for someone who's coming to you for help?
Sure. So I used to just do purely hypnosis for like when I first started, when I got certified, I was just using that hypnosis. But what I've realized after working with my clients, that doing hypnosis mixed with guided meditation was so much more impactful for them. So what I do is I do guided meditation and hypnosis mixed together. So because I'm certified in hypnosis, there's certain like techniques that we do that helps you go into like your unconscious mind like so much quicker than if we were just to go through like a regular guided meditation. There's certain words that I say, there's certain breathing patterns that we do, especially because I'm now trauma informed. Those breathing patterns are also involved. So what I do is I take everybody. So let's say we were on like a healing session and I do like uh, energy clearing session. And so what we do is we go in and I'm going to bring you into a relaxed state. We're going to go through your chakra system so that your chakra system is then cleaned out. And I don't want to, when I say cleaned out, it's more balanced. I'm not specifically cleaning anything out at that point. And then we go in and then it's just this visual journey of us changing water, like we're changing the clearness of water, and then I add some colors into it, and then once we're done, you feel kind of strange. I will admit that you feel kind of strange afterwards, but you feel a 24-hour difference. Like you feel lighter, you feel like your energy is clearer, you feel like you can think clearer, you're more present in your body, and things just completely shift. And so that's just in this one session that I do with my clients. Like if we're working together one to one, that's like week 2 or week 3, depending on where we're at. But what I also do is timeline therapy that you mentioned. That's in a hypnosis guided meditation as well, because my clients they were seeing better results with it that way too. And so I combined everything together, and just the results, they're just fascinating. Sometimes I don't even know how to explain the things that they're like telling me. And I'm just like, this is so amazing. I'm glad I decided to do it like this.
I love it. You sound just like me. I love how when healers get together and we learn different modalities, we create our own version, and a kind of like, it's not even really a hodgepodge. That's the only like ego way of saying it, but it really is these download spiritual connections where you start realizing like, this is great for this client, and then this is great for this client. And then we start creating our own modality around it. I do the same thing with I mix NLP with the energetic recodes that I do, and like the subconscious commands, bringing in some guided meditation, and a lot of the stuff that I learned from theater as well. So like being able to change my voice and being able to go into this command state, right? So it is
Yeah, I love that.
so powerful to be able to use all of the skill sets that we've learned up until this point to truly help and transform our clients' lives. Because I 100% believe what you said earlier, that it is possible to heal childhood trauma. And here's the best part, is that you can still remember what happened, but the way, at least the way I do the healing, is we keep the memory but remove the pain. Right? So the memory might still be there, but we're removing the pain and the association you have with it. So
Yeah.
your body no longer goes into panic mode or tense mode, right? Even you just describing we put the body into relaxed state, we do this, like we start doing the guided meditation, like my body immediately relaxed, because it was like, oh, we're doing this. It's like, okay, body, no, wait, hold on. We're doing a podcast right now. It's like, like it was already so trained to do that, because we do need to give our body conscious commands. Do you want to talk a little bit more about NLP and how that works and why it's life-changing, especially the way you do it with all of the different modalities for your clients? I would love to hear about one of your clients and what she was struggling with when she started, and sort of like how her life is now.
Sure. So when we do NLP, I believe that because I'm so familiar with it, we do it in combination of everything else that we're doing. More specifically, my favorite part of what I got from NLP is doing the parts integration. I don't remember specifically what it was called for NLP, but I actually use that for my clients, and I do it in such a way where we do the guided meditation and we go in and heal the inner child with that parts work, that part of NLP, and we do it all together because I loved NLP. I loved learning about it. I point certain things out with my clients, like the language that they're using. When we start generalizing and saying, oh, well, he's always doing that, or he never does this for me. And I'm like, okay, but that's not actually true. Like, we'll start to dive into that piece. I love those pieces of it. But what I loved the most about it was the parts work in it. And so I use that with my clients to integrate so that they have healed inner child parts. And so our inner child isn't running the show all the time.
I love that. And I want to give an example to everyone here that has nothing to do with trauma, but in terms of the power of words and commands. So when you tell someone, don't forget to make your doctor's appointment, you're actually commanding the brain to forget about it. as ridiculous as that sound, the command is not, the brain and the universe do not work in absolutes, meaning that it doesn't understand the negative side because you're focusing on the forgetting. So on the flip side, it seems like the same sentence, but remember to make your doctor's appointment. Remember to make your doctor's appointment is telling the command to make the doctor's appointment, to remember it versus don't forget. It seems like a technicality, but the power of language is so important in how we use it. Again, with when you were describing the always, right? Like this is one of the first things I address with my clients when we first starting off. They're like, Emmy, why do I always date losers? Or why am I always attracted to the bad boys? It's like, okay, well, let's first start saying the truth about this, right? It's really easy to speak in hyperboles and exaggerate. And it's not that we're lying. We're just sort of like trained in society to like make it easier and just sort of like generalize everything. But it's like, no, let's go back and actually specify, okay, when this guy did this, okay, awesome. Or one of the most dangerous one is all men are cheaters or all the good ones are taken. Okay, let's start there, right? If all the good ones are taken and all men are cheaters, why are you on the dating apps? Because if they're not available, why are you bothering? And if they're all cheaters and you don't want one, then why are you bothering? Because by default, if you have those generalizations in your blueprint, in you're commanding that consciously, then you're going to be attracting men who are, you might find them on the apps, but they're not emotionally available. And you might find them in the apps and yeah, for sure, they're going to cheat on you. Why? Because you already commanded it. I'd love to hear your insights on that.
Well, that's like the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? This is where we decide to like do things or take on too much, or we decide to date this guy even though we know the red flags are there, but we have to prove to ourselves that what we're talking about is absolutely true, right? It's true. And this is how we create that truth. And we don't even realize that we're actually doing it, which is the craziest thing. But there's also there's so many other things that we use, and not even like just in our day-to-day life, like I can't wait, um I don't know how to figure this out, or I can't do this, or there's some other ones that I was just thinking about too that we say on a regular basis that we don't even realize that we're saying, and that it really trips us up and it really hurts us. And our language absolutely matters. The healing and everything that matters too, like it all goes together. Because what you will notice is that, especially as you're healing, is that your language will start to shift. The generalizing does kind of stop, but also there are going to be some things, especially if you have hangups, especially like around dating, and especially if you have had a history that's not, ideal for you, then yeah, you are going to have some generalizations that need to be worked on. But the thing is that when you heal, those start to shift, but we also tend to say certain things in our lives that totally block us from being able to move forward, from having intimate relationships, from, nagging at our partners, the things that we're saying, you always do that. And that may not always be true. And so there are certain things that we just do that are just so unconscious and so automatic.
I love that. And 100% spot on. Like all of that is so important because it's not just about rewiring for ourselves. It's how we operate in the world, how we show up in the world, and how we show up in partnership, whether it be business, whether it be romantic. It is so important for us to start catching ourselves in that language. And you're right. Like I wouldn't say that I never generalize. And there we go with the never, right? The never and always are very dangerous. It's not like 100% proof, I will say, but I start consciously catching myself and then I start catching my clients. And then as we start working with them together, then they start catching themselves, right? So it could be something as silly and simple as like, oh, you know what? Like life really sucks lately versus like today was a bad day. You're allowed to have bad days and it could be truthful that you had a bad day, but tomorrow is another day. Right? Like life in general doesn't suck. And like, it's not always bad. Like, hey, well, last week you had an incredible day and you celebrated that. And be like, oh yeah, you're right. That was. So we have to start really being careful around that because our words and our energy behind those words are what what create our reality.
Yes.
I love that, Angela. So, Angela, how can someone find you, reach out to you to find out how they can start this process of healing their childhood trauma?
Sure. So you can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Transform with Angela. Or you, of course, can go to my website, which is transformwithangela.com.
Thank you, Angela. Any final words for our listeners today?
I want the listeners to know that no matter where you're at with your healing, no matter if you're in a relationship or not, you can have the relationship that you absolutely desire, but you also have to put in the work of having that relationship. So he's not going to just show up and it's going to be this magic. You also have to do the work and show up.
I love that. Yes, this is a co-creative process, everyone. Just as we co-create with the universe, we co-create with everyone around us in our life. And it is not about imposing, it is about co-creating. Thank you so much, Angela. Remember, everyone, you deserve safe love. We'll see you on the next episode. Love you. Mwah.